apologize for the delay. Can we all please rise for the pledge?
Good evening. I just wanted to take a moment to address the opportunity for the public to be heard on agenda items for tonight. Locust Valley Board of Education welcomes public comment at its meeting and will respond to comments and/or inquiries in the appropriate manner. A sign-in sheet is available in the vestibule community theater for those residents wishing to address the board. In order to be recognized tonight, you must be signed in. Each speaker will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes. The board president will call you to the microphone in the order in which you're signed in. As noted on tonight's agenda, there will be one opportunity for public comment this evening, where residents may address items on tonight's agenda, as well as other community concerns prior to meeting adjournment. Speakers are asked to observe these protocols. Please state your name and community of residence. Please use the audience microphone at the podium. Please address your question or remarks to the board president. Please do not include any references to personnel or students of the district by name and refrain from any personal attacks. Finally, please limit the time of your remarks to 3 minutes as mentioned. Please thank you for your participation and cooperation.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you all for joining us. We have some unfinished business from earlier in the month at our earlier meeting. The first item we're going to discuss is the BOCES AS7 agreement signing.
Hello. First, I would like to thank the Board of Education for their engagement and talking points and their interest in our BOCES budget. I want to assure the Board of Education that this budget is a result of a rigorous 6-week review process with every line in the letter of intent is carefully vetted by our administrators to ensure both the accuracy and necessity. So the bottom line, the overall financial impact that the BOCES AS agreement has from this year to the previous year, there is a difference of $93,613. And this figure is balanced of 2 factors. One is there is an estimated increase of $342,000 that's driven by necessary and mandated special education placements. And I'm just going to say that this is an estimate, that it is what it is. It's an estimate. And then to offset that, there's a significant offset of $248,000, which is a decrease across all other services and products, and this highlights our successful cost savings efforts. There was, I want to specifically address the career education program, as the bill shows a very large jump of $376,000 to $690,000 this year. This is understandably concerning on the surface. However, this is not a massive spending increase. It actually reflects the change in how BOCES now presents its bills. They have combined the cost of a number of 2 other programs, which includes the Long Island High School for the Arts and the CTE Intensive Skills into a single line item. When we compare the programs on the true apples-to-apples basis, there is an actual cost increase of $26,000. I want to then move over to another big ticket item just to explain it. We have $342,000, and that's part of the health and welfare services. That's bill. So this is a line item that is a state mandated responsibility. Districts of location. If there is a private school in a district of location, the public school must offer health and welfare services. So what does that mean? That school has the right to have a nurse, and the public school pays for that nurse. And the same for psychologists. Yes,
Sorry, just on that.
Sure, just
Just on that, do we get receivables from districts for those services?
So that's the interesting part. I was going to get to that. So there's two ways for a district to do that. One way is we would put our own nurse into that school, and we would pay their salary and their benefits, and then we would make a prorated cost per pupil, and then we would bill the other districts. So the money would come back. There's no problem. Just want to be clear. The other option, and this is the option the district chooses, instead of hiring our own staff to do this, we have allowed OCs to staff. And in our district, it's Portland, the nurse at Portland. And this is similar to a number of other districts. So when OCs does actually staffs these school districts, these private schools, they calculate the prorated share per pupil in each school, and then they bill all the public schools through the letter representative. So if they are offering nurses in, let's say, I'm just trying to think of what school we cover. And I'm going to use South Huntington because I believe St. Anthony's is one such school. We would then get a bill on our OC's bill for our portion, our students going to that school and for the cost. So that represents OC's staffing their employees in the private school. So every school district is still paying a portion of the bill, but instead of, let's say, in this example, it would be South Huntington billing us. We're not getting a bill from South Huntington. Instead, we would get billed directly on BOCES, on our BOCES bill.
So the 342 is basically Portland nurses minus, and we get back whatever the difference is minus the Locust Valley residents.
That bill is all our parentally placed private and parochial school students that go to other private schools. And then there was a question with technology and data. So, as I said, it's a 6-week process when we look at the BOCES bill. It's huge. So, as with this regard, all educational software undergoes a rigorous vetting process to ensure that effective, appropriate, and secure software is used in our district. We analyze the usage through reports to confirm active usage. While we have 2 staff members, Mr. Ken Patrick and Ms. Anne Bonastina, reviews all the software content. The second portion to this is when we use BOCES for software, they also are offering a service for student data protection. We are partnering with them to navigate the complex state privacy mandates. This service, and again, it's state mandates. This service ensures our compliance and allows our technology staff the ability to focus on the technology that directly supports our teaching and learning. The next item is professional development. Please note that professional development is charged on actual usage. So the bill that you say is an estimate. This is what we think we may spend. But we're billed on actual usage.
Here, just really quick, what's the typical variance that you see in training year to year for?
It's really, that's a really hard question because it depends on how we're using it.
For example, we have new science standards, so we send teachers to get trained on new science standards and new science assessments. Anytime there's a new state mandate, we end up sending teachers there. There are also professional, like collegiate circles that are offered, where you find out the latest and greatest. So it does really vary, but usually mandates such as a new science assessment, new standards, we do tend to use BOCES because they go up to the state and they turn key information.
So all professional development is requested at the building level and then reviewed by central office administrators. The approval process is done throughout the year as administrators deem necessary. And then as my final note, the important context of BOCES aid and our state revenue. You may remember in one of my many budget presentations, the one particularly in March that I broke it down. This year's budget, there was a budget increase. Budget to budget increase is actually less than the levy increase. The reason why that happened, it was because of state aid. The reason why that happened with state aid was we had two different issues. One was our transportation aid. The state considered us wealthier, so our transportation aid ratio is down to 6.5%, which is bare minimum. The second item was our BOCES aid. The less you spend with BOCES, the less aid, the less revenue you're going to get the following year. With this BOCES bill, the non-special ed portion of the bill, we receive approximately a net of 59% back the following year of what we spent. So that is a good portion of our revenue for the following year.
Can I ask, what do we receive back for the special aid, the special ed?
So the special ed portion, we receive aid through our excess cost aid. So it's a different method that goes through the state.
Do you know about what we get back?
It's got to do with the Seneca Falls rate that's published every year. Last year, I want to say, I'm going to give it like 92,000, something.
That's the Seneca Falls.
That's the Seneca Falls rate. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so the Seneca Falls rate, the state determines that every year. So what that technically means in special education is that the school district will be responsible for the first 92,000. Above that amount is considered high cost, and we get back aid on that amount, whatever that amount would be, depending on the child services.
Is there like a threshold? Because I know we have a lot of special ed services going out for BOCES. And I know a few years ago we brought our life skills program in. And I don't dare to say that I know a lot about this. But is there a threshold where we might say these programs should come in-house? Or that it may be beneficial for us to at least look at a cost analysis? Or do we have the capability of any other option other than sending that out for BOCES?
I'll speak as a former director. It really depends on the children's grouping. So from year to year, it can look very different. When you're looking at programs, and I would probably, ascertain that when they began this life skills program here, which is fantastic, you have to have enough students. So there are ratios where, of course, we always believe in a least restrictive environment. So I can speak to the staff here, I can speak to Dr. Cabellis and her team. If we can keep the child here, we're going to do everything in our power. I think our support staff, our school psychologists, our school counselors, We have a brand new our occupational therapist is not new, but our physical therapist, this was the first year that we hired someone that's on staff. So that will give us the potential in the future to, we're hoping, keep kids in district. We never want to send them out. We believe we provide superior education here, but when the CSE does meet, they do determine, are we meeting the needs of the child? If we're not meeting the needs of the child, then we really do seek to find a placement that will, but always thinking, how can we bring them back? Because sometimes a child might go to an outside placement like a BOCES for a year, and perhaps things change. Children mature, children change from year to year. We might say, we go and visit them, again, Dr. Belson and her team and the school psychologists, they go and visit these children in those settings. And if they see that there's a possibility, and we work on that transition plan with our BOCES personnel, so hopefully get the child back to district. I hope that answers that.
Yeah, and I think that if these numbers continue to increase of outside placements, that maybe when we're talking about our planning, whether it's facilities or hires for the next 5 to 10 years, we may put that into consideration. It seems as if that portion of the BOCES budget goes up substantially year over year. There's got to be some tipping point where we might be able to provide something here. Thank you.
Karen, does it go up significantly every year?
Special education,
Yeah, spent.
I would have to look back at the previous years.
Maybe understanding a trend, sorry, this is not, understanding a trend line in terms of what we have spent and what that trajectory looks like over the past 5 years would provide a more sort of fact-based approach.
And I think when we get to the budget season too, we're going to incorporate that more just so we can see trends. But I think overall, Dr. Fells, please correct me if I'm wrong. Unfortunately, from what educators are saying is there are more children with disabilities than in former years past. So that's why the preschool services are even overloaded, and there's not always necessarily the services that we would hope for all the children can be available.
And I think, Karen, just from an accounting perspective, talking to BOCES about just providing sort of in a cover letter when you're getting the bills, collapsing 2 line items into one is a big deal, right? So it would have been nice if you had the heads up so we could have explained that.
I apologize for that.
Well, that's not your fault. I think it's up to BOCES to provide us that information. So a little more transparency. Thank you.
Can I ask a question, Karen, going back to the beginning, when you explained year over year, we're going up 342,000, right? However, that real number, in terms of the expenses for BOCES, but the real number of an increase is 93,000, right? 93,600. And that's because of reductions that the admin team looked at expenditures across all BOCES services and took money, cut lines, if you will.
Correct.
Is that right? Those cuts, do you have a sense of any sort of insight on the impact? Did we reduce programs considerably? Did we reduce services to students at all? And the impacts of that, or was it more efficiencies that we looked at?
I think it was more on the efficiencies.
One example, the parent reports for the state assessments were mailed. We don't mail them anymore, they're on the parent portal. So that was postage, that was the paper, that was all of that. So that was that was one of the things that we decided that was a efficiency to do. So that's just one example.
How much, so with enrollment numbers fluctuating, how much does enrollment drive some of these BOCES fees? I know some are licensing fees for technology, so is enrollment numbers all drive some of those line
Like the
items?
software,
And so then that's reviewed every year as part of
Absolutely, absolutely. But they give us the numbers, so it's important to know that it's called the AWADA, the BOCES themselves, and depending on software, sometimes they do a 3-year average. Sometimes they do a 3-year average, or what BOCES does is they're looking at a specific count. So I'll give you an example. In October, there's a snapshot that happens. And that snapshot is quote unquote what winds up on the school report card for how many children are receiving students with special needs. So there are certain clips, so every Thursday, out of every system in the state of New York, all of us, we have these school here, the data is pulled out of our student management system, is sent up to the state of New York, and they're looking at the different numbers. There are different times that we're reporting to New York specific criteria, students that are English language learners, for example. That's how they get the report card with how many students that we have in the building. Now, it fluctuates. We could get 10 more kids next week, but if they already made that snapshot, that's what we get charged for BOCES. So whatever that one number is, that's what they charge us for. And it depends on the software company. The companies are all a little bit different. Sometimes they do by building, sometimes they do ranges, say 100 to 1,000. So we're working with very different contracts, and BOCES does have all the contracts really for us to tap into it. That's why the districts use the BOCES, and then we get some state aid back from it.
I just wanted to note, one of the things that Ms. Palmistina and Mr. Packard looks at is the number of students. So are we using this software in the intermediate school? So if they feel that there's not enough value in it, they may take out the intermediate school. So the less per student, the less we charge.
The last thing I just want to mention, because one of the things we did discuss at the last meeting, just to go full circle, was our contracted services with Syntax. So I do want to mention the PR committee has met over the last 2 years and discussed alternates and options for our PR services, whether it's our website, web services, our PR firm, how we communicate through social media and so forth. The recommendation again this year was to do a review of the program and to go out to bid and review alternates to the program. But my understanding is it will be brought to the PR committee. I'm not running PR this year, but my understanding is it will be brought back to PR and reviewed this year. So I do want to make note of that because there is a 12-month contract with them in the contract with BOCES. So apparently it can be reviewed at any time during the year.
Can I just make a note of that? I called BOCES specifically regarding that line item, and they said we could cancel at any time.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Karen. Moving on to the next item of unfinished business, we wanted to rediscuss the BI roof replacement and the BI turf field.
I just realized I had to give the presentation over to Allison. Yes, we do have Mr. Packard here in the back.
No, the other one. Do you have anything else after this? Yeah.
So just to, I mean, maybe we should preface while we're doing this, that we're having the conversation tonight. It was brought up at the last board meeting that they were looking for overages for the project at BI, which included the turf field and the composite slate roof. So I believe the administrators have put together a presentation to give certain responses to questions that were raised in public. There were quite a few. And then hopefully we can discuss after. That's my understanding of the presentation tonight. We have not seen this yet, so.
Thank you. A moment of when I'm extremely embarrassed. Thank you.
It's okay.
Okay, so thank you for giving me this opportunity for Eric and myself to review the summer capital projects. So as you can see, our summer project at Vega Intermediate School has made significant progress. All the scaffolding has been removed from the front and to the side. You'll also notice some change in scenery, with front shrubbery being removed for safety and security. And this was based on a recommendation from Nassau County Police Department, improving the visibility of we're going to be planting lower shrubs, perennials in the near future. But if you look at the picture itself, you'll see the new roof and you'll see two other views of that same roof. So what was the timeline? We started this on June 30th. We have an estimated completion date of September 19th. So let's talk about the financial information with regards to this. So the proposed project estimate in the 24-25 transfer to capital was $900,000. The actual price from the contractor, which is also the purchase order amount, was $760,000. The purchase order increase is $40,690. It's a little different from what was brought to the board earlier in the month, and that's because the vendor made a correction on their initial figures, so the increase is less than what was originally brought to the board. So the current estimated completion cost is $801,000. Now this is where I would like to make an apology for a typo in my memo. Unfortunately, the staff member who normally proofs all my work was out sick that day, and it was missed. So I apologize for that. But you should be aware that the current estimated completion cost is $801,000. So the difference between the proposed and the estimated completion is the savings of $98,000.
Thank you very much. I will now discuss the purchase order increases that we needed to put this replacement project. The first one is after removal of the slate and underlayment, we discovered damage in rotted sheathing, which needs to be replaced in multiple areas. Secondly, it was discovered that the existing Yankee gutter system, which goes around the entire building, needed to be built out and capped in order to correctly complete the wrapping of the gutter and to prevent any possible future damage to the road. Those were all essential repairs for structural integrity and the waterproofing of the unit. So on this slide, you'll see some pictures of the damage that was discovered after the removal. And on this slide, you'll see the old Yankee gutter without the cap on the left. And on the right side, you'll see the wrapped and capped gutter, which will greatly extend the life of this gutter system. Next, I will discuss the composite roof. The composite slate was chosen for numerous reasons. First being the cost savings. Composite slate is much easier to install and therefore less expensive to install, creating that cost saving. Second is it is a safer option. This material cannot delaminate like natural slate. And when natural slate delaminates, it often flies off the roof during windstorms, becoming a major safety hazard. Third is its superior strength. It has the highest impact rating, which is class 4, meaning that this can withstand hurricane-force winds and debris and snow. Finally, it is a much lighter material than natural slate, which decreases the structural load on the building, as well as allows for a much larger snow load if we ever get snow again. Next, we're going to shift over to the Bayville Intermediate Turf project. I'd just like to start off by clarifying what type of turf system is being installed. This system is completely quartz sand-based, meaning there's no crumb rubber that's going to be used. And this turf is certified to be free of VOCs and PFA, which are two things that are definitely concerning. And to ensure everyone's safety from concussions, a shock pad is being installed underneath the turf. And as you can see from these pictures, we started the actual turf installation today.
Gotta go back one. Gotta go back a couple times.
So, why? Let's go back to why the turf field. You may not be aware, but it resolved a chronic drainage issue that we had at the field at Bayville Intermediate, and it was difficult to utilize after rainy days. Benefits: improve the scheduling for the middle school, high school athletics. It creates an opportunity for our community teams, and it also guarantees a durable all-weather playing surface. I just want to note that details were shared of this turf field through my budget presentations, both on March 26th and April 22nd, as well as the road show, and it was also shouted out on social media. So the timeline. So the start date was July 1st, with the estimated completion date of September 19th. So the financial information. So the projected estimate proposed for the 25-26 transfer to capital is $2,029,000. The actual price from the contractor was $2,029,000. There were two purchase order increases, and they were one for $169,000, and the second for $78,000. So the current estimated completion cost is $2,266,000. This is a difference from the original estimate of $247,000. If we look at the 25-26 transfer to capital, you'll notice there were two lines. The second line was the middle school, high school elevator conversion. Originally, we budgeted $471,000. If you look at the actual, which is still an estimate, we brought that down to $330,000, and that's thanks to a quote that we received. Now, we're still going out to bid, but it's a more realistic price. And any overage, so now we're over $96,000, and any overage will be offset by other underspent projects.
We'll discuss purchase order number 1 right now. It has numerous elements to it. The First being the replacement of the existing walkway from BP to BI. During the removal of the field, it was discovered that the existing asphalt walkway was in much worse shape than originally identified and needed to be replaced. The second is the replacement of the asphalt in the recess, handball, and basketball. This asphalt is in poor condition, not uniform, and now needs to be regraded based on the new field elevation. The third is the addition of concrete dugouts and footings. This will allow for the addition of potential future dugout cover. Finally, the last piece is the additional markings which were added for 77 soccer and flag football. These will both greatly help the district and the outside communities that. On this slide, you'll see some pictures of the walkway from BP to BI. And on this slide, you'll see some pictures of the current conditions of the asphalt in the recess and the handball areas. Finally, on this slide, you'll see some pictures of the new concrete dugouts. These dugouts will have both benches and fences around them in the near future. Now we'll discuss purchase order number 2. This increase was needed to address an issue that was discovered after the field layout was completed. The field layout was laid out way too close to the hill near BP, which necessitated the installation of a retaining wall and walkway to allow for the installation of a third base dugout as well as access to the field. This wall and walkway will also serve as protection for the field from any possible runoff. On this slide, you'll see the couple of pictures of the retaining wall and walkway. I believe that concludes our presentation.
Thank you both. Do we have any questions, comments?
Just a quick question, Eric, on the slate roof project. Can you speak about the longevity of the composite tile in contrast to the wallless natural slate?
Sure, they both come with 50-year warranties from the manufacturer. There's no true known length of how long composite's going to last because it hasn't been around for 100 years. But if they're giving a 50-year warranty similar to natural slate, you can assume it'll be at least 50 to 75 years.
Are each of these individual tiles, or are they?
Yes,
Okay.
they're individual tiles, very similar.
So in the event that like this piece of slate cracked or whatever,
It's a very easy, it's much easier to repair.
it's easier than natural slate.
Yes.
Thanks.
Just to go through the roof, a couple questions that I have. For the cost savings, and I know you said that the vendor had made a correction on the figures, did we go back to the vendor and they discounted the cost of the project? Or I guess, how did we get cost savings or vendor correction in a matter of a few weeks for the project?
That was, it was due to most of the fact that it's basically completed at this point. So they had a much better idea. So that was a time and materials based thing, so we were only going to pay for what was built, what they actually were.
So aside from time and materials, where was the cost savings going from the slate to the composite? Like what percentage or where was that?
Oh, the natural slate to
Right.
composite slate, it's more than 25% saving.
So, and I'm sorry for my ignorance, but if it was a 25% savings, then where is that money? I guess we started at 900.
The 900 was for a composite.
Well, we approved as a board and as a community a slate roof for the budget of 900,000. That was what was put out to the public. So I just want to make sure that it's clear that we didn't put out to the public a composite roof, that we put out a replacement of the slate roof. I'm okay with the change. I understand the components of safety and durability and cost savings. But it would appear that we should have a cost saving from the 900 to today. My understanding is composite is significantly less expensive, installation's less.
As you know, I put those together. I put that based on composite slate. So that 900 was always based on composite.
Okay. And then the other question I had is, you had mentioned some of the plantings outside of the front of the building at BI. Would that impact any of the mature trees that are planted around the building?
So we kept the 2 trees on the ends, which is what the police had recommended to open up the view, but those will still be there.
Were there any trees that are gonna be removed though? Like larger trees, like not the
Large
one,
trees, no large trees.
just the small ones that are up against the building?
Yeah, those were taken, the ones in the center were taken down, but then the other ones, all the larger trees, unless they fall down or they're told by the arborist that they're diseased, they'll cover it.
Was it the one in the circle that was taken down? Like the traffic circle or?
We took one traffic signal down a while back, and that was half of it fell actually on contractor vehicle.
Okay. So just so I'm understanding, is it normal, we would get a purchase order at the end of the work when it's been adjusted for time and material, and then they would add in the overages, is that correct?
What do I add in the over?
Well, we just got this purchase, the first contract or any paperwork that we're seeing for BI was the purchase order last month. So is this the normal cadence where we would get a purchase order and then they would send in another purchase order that's less? Is that?
So what Eric said was true, but there was also an adjustment. By the time it went to my desk, I thought that everything, by the time it comes to my desk and I do write a memo, it, in my eyes, I thought it would be clear. All check. Unfortunately, we did have some vacations, and the paperwork ended up on my desk a little early. As we looked at it, I realized that they needed to make some corrections based on markup. They presented markup also. So that was another part to this correction.
Does anybody else have any questions about the roof?
Can I ask a question?
If you'd like, please sign up. Please sign up, and then you can come up at the end and ask those questions.
Now, there was just one other item that I wanted to say. This would have never been paid. I might have put in for the increase. This would not have passed the auditors. It would have not been paid the correct dollar amount.
Moving on to the field, and I will give the community some background. This conversation about the field has gone on for as long as I've been on the board. This is my 6th year. And the precipice for the project was anytime it rained, snowed, there was any inclement weather, the kids were not on the field. It was a flood. We had discussed with Eric multiple ways to remedy the issue, and it was brought up on multiple occasions that turf would be a solution to the issue and would keep kids on the field playing. I have to be honest, I'm discouraged by the process. I think when we take on large projects, there's a few things that the Board of Education is very clear on. One is getting multiple bids, which I haven't seen for these projects. I've only seen pricing from one company. It would be to work with the Facilities Committee and the Board of Ed while we walk through these projects. I'm happy to hear that it's a sand-based product. It's wonderful. I think the community deserves to, have an understanding. I do have a question legally for council, I guess, when it comes to the purchase order. So one of the increases that was mentioned tonight is the 7v7 soccer field. Now, this, I believe, was at the request of the Bayville Locust Valley Soccer Club. That's a private club in the area. And it will be the district and the taxpayers that will be funding this change order for the 7v7 field to add the lines of the size of the field. Our president and head of facilities is also on that board of the Locust Valley Bayville Soccer Club. So I do want to make sure before this board moves forward that we have a legal okay that that's, an appropriate thing to do given the nature of the change order. I think.
We'd be happy to prepare
I don't think it's prudent for us to be voting on that, given the circumstances.
I think utterly unfamiliar with the circumstances.
So maybe we wait and get
You've
the
already had-
attorneys to review and just make sure we're operating in compliance. Obviously, these are positions that we all hold as volunteers, but it was presented from the soccer club and would be utilized strictly by an outside organization for those lines. And my last question is, where are we getting the 250,000 to supplement the field?
As I mentioned in an earlier slide, so this was our transfer capital for the 25-26 school year. We have a significant savings from the elevator, the middle school, high school elevator conversion. It originally was $471,000. The new estimate is $330,000, and that's based on an actual estimate that we received. We are going out to bid, but at least we have a real number now. So that means that we have an overage of $96,000, and that will be offset by some of the other unspent transfer capital projects.
Can I have a question? I'm signed up. So my question is, that's not going to be done until next year.
We gotta wait.
John, can you just wait to the end?
Oh, I can wait. No problem, thank you.
Yes.
Other questions?
I would suggest that we meet as a facilities committee and review this stuff and the renderings, and what's going on moving forward. The other question I had posed to the board to discuss in facilities was regarding the administration building. I believe there's work being done, so I would recommend that we take caution and meet properly in the facilities meeting. I think it's time that we review everything that we have outstanding and really sit down in a public forum and walk through these projects and make sure that we're communicating properly. I think there's a lot of undue concern that could have been alleviated in the community had we communicated this better, all of us. I think that's a board, I think it's an administrative issue, I think it's a facilities. I'm a board member, so I take my responsibility in that, but it's our job to communicate what the taxpayers are paying for. So I apologize to our community that this is the way in which this work has been put out. And hopefully the questions that many of our community members, as well as our board, has answered or have been answered, hopefully this evening and moving forward, and we can do a better job.
Thanks, Lauren. Eric, just please remind me, you had mentioned that one of the pieces of the value proposition for this turf field was strengthening community partnerships in terms of bringing on community leagues. Would you give me a list of some of those community leagues that we're referring to?
We have the baseball, the soccer, lacrosse league. Those are the main three. And then the flag football is for our high school varsity flag football team, and then the middle school students who most likely be playing sports at least practicing.
So these essentially are power users, these community partnerships of these fields and these facilities. So ensuring that we are maximizing the opportunity for all of them to be able to utilize is probably a fair assessment of what we're trying to do here.
Sure.
Okay. Now, interestingly, in the last meeting, we were talking about a $400,000 overage. Karen, thank you for diving into the details to demystify the fact that we were never talking about $400,000. I did take a look at the last purchase order, so I was a little surprised at the banter that we were having up on the dais. Because I did see there was a PO for $247,000 that was explained in the cover letter. Accommodate soccer, repairing, installing new walkways, concrete dugouts, it was all sort of listed there. So I think it's on all of us to remember to look at these things, and when we're bringing numbers up in public, we have to be spot on with the data that we're bringing to you, and that those numbers must be accurate.
So that's on all of us to make sure we're doing our diligence there. So I'm also in the middle of renovation in my home. I can tell you I'm running into overages to the point I wish I had never started the project. So I understand that this is sort of part and parcel for what we do, but I did appreciate the last line that you provided in the PO was that the amount remains within the overall budget approved from the transfer to capital. So that was something that struck with me. I really appreciate this presentation. I hope it is a new practice moving forward. This diligence is incumbent upon us, especially for you guys as taxpayers. I'm a taxpayer, so I am very mindful of what we're spending here. And I just want to thank you to Lauren for keeping us all honest and remembering you guys stay on top of things, because I think we've been doing a pretty good job of. And I thank you to you guys for pouring in and providing more detail. It is incredibly helpful, and the transparency is important. So thank you.
I just want to clarify where the 400,000 number came from. So it was a $250,000 increase for the turf field, and it was about approximately $150,000 over the approved $900,000 amount in the budget for the roof. So we were at 1.5 almost total, and we were 250 over on, so the two projects combined, 250 and 150 over. It wasn't the overage, it was the initial cost that they were quoting on the roof was $1 million, plus the overage, plus the overages on the turf. So that is where the $400,000 was calculated. It was the difference between what was on the budget and approved and what was the total number for the project.
Okay, I think that's a fair point. And we had not discussed that, or those numbers, those questions had not been raised prior to that meeting. So I just think it's good that if the community understands that we are making our best effort to talk more in public with everyone. We're going to bring more business to public. So please understand that there might be, some of us might be operating with a different sense or a different set of information than others. It's our job to bring all of us up to speed, so we're working together to get to the best answer. Thanks. Karen, would you like to respond?
I just want to, unfortunately, reiterate, I go back to for the current estimated completion cost was $801,000. There was a typo that brought it above $1 million. That was a typo.
Yes.
Thank you, Karen.
Sorry, just from a practical point of view, so I drove by VI today, and I know the school is opening in a week, right? So I just obviously feel the closed and scaffolding is still up on the parkway, on the parking lot. So just from a practical point of view, in terms of being ready for the building to be open, like how, are there changes in procedures or what's happening?
That scaffolding is actually in, I guess you consider the shoulder area of the parking lot, so it doesn't actually affect any parking lot spaces. And the contractor is going to consolidate his staging area, just to take up 4 spots.
Okay, and then I guess are the kids, the playground looks closed, so I guess
So
how does that work?
We're going to be, before the end of this week, we're going to have all basically fenced off, so that, and I spoke to the principal about this. They'll basically be able to go out to a small part of the asphalt and then the entire playground area. And within a week, probably they'll be able to get half of basketball court once we get more of the turf on.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you both.
I rise for the purpose of clarification. Order. Would you be so kind as to
I'm
tell
sorry,
me?
ma'am, it is not the time for public comment.
Robert's Rules of Order, this is not public comment. I rise for the purpose of clarification on the topic.
That only applies to the board, ma'am. It does not apply
Now
to
it
the
applies
community
to the
members.
public.
I'm asking council
Robert's
for
Rules of
advice.
Order, council.
That only is applicable to the legislative body, which is the board of
Question
education.
to the legislative body.
You can ask questions, I'm not curious, but rising to
for clarification on the topic.
During public comment, not a member. I need the board member.
And I was ill-advised, my apologies.
We will move on to a new business item that is being added to the agenda this evening. A resolution resolved that this evening's meeting agenda be amended to appoint an assistant high school principal. Resolved that DC be appointed as a probationary high school assistant principal to serve a probationary term in accordance with the education law of the state of New York. Do I have a motion for that resolution? Matt, do I have a second? Holly, all those in favor? All those opposed? Abstaining. Motion passes. We're going to move on to the consent agenda. Do we have any items that members would like to pull from the consent agenda?
Yes, I'd like to pull for separate vote, section 5 of the consent agenda, personnel, under 2, appointments, under administrative staff. I'd also like to pull under section 6, subject B, for separate vote. And I'd like to pull section C, under number 6, section C, for separate vote. It was under,
It's under the par number 2, under appointments for administrative staff. And then additionally, under section 6, financial,
it's for the DI group and the
for the
DI.
DI group, and for the turf field, pulling for separate votes. Should I do the rest of the par first, and then handle those separate items? Or do the separate items first? Minus those items.
Minus that one item. It's 3.
3 items,
The car only has 1 item. So,
for the consent agenda.
okay, but the financial, are.
Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, pulling out appointments, the first item under appointments for administrative staff, and then in the consent agenda financial section, items B and C? Christina, do I have a second? Matt? All those in favor? It's unanimous. As for the items pulled, we'll have an initial vote on the appointments number 2 under the administrative staff on the par. Do I have a motion to approve that item?
We can't have any conversation about it, or I just put it out? Maybe just go right to a vote, or how does that work? So just on 2?
Yep.
No, I guess I'm just trying to understand, I just looking for some information about contact after that, that have been,
Kristen, do you want to discuss that?
Since we do not have an assistant principal for the start of school, it is my recommendation to the Board of Education to appoint an interim. The interim has worked with our administrative staff very recently on master schedule. He has a relationship with our high school principal, one of respect. They've worked together as high school principals in the past. In speaking with the assistant principal and the principal, obviously they want to open up school with all hands on deck, especially with new students that may be new to us. Most importantly, we want to fully execute our no cell phone policy. We also adopted, the Board of Education adopted a new code of conduct. And of course, we want to support our new staff members. We have teaching assistants, aides, monitors, custodial units. We did receive a small list from Scope in regards to retirees that were interested in working with the district. Some of the individuals on there did not have the backgrounds. For instance, one was a director of PPS. They weren't an assistant principal of the high school. I was an assistant principal of the high school for 3 years. I know the duties and the responsibilities, and I want our team, in particular Mr. DiClemente and Mrs. Watson and the entire team, to feel supported when they open up school. So that is my recommendation, that we hire an interim until the new assistant principal can start with us.
I will mention that I pulled this from the consent agenda because I will be voting no to this appointment. In my almost 6 years here on the board, historically we have always had interims, especially for such a very short amount of time, and somebody internal. I trust our administrators and our staff that they've always pitched in, they have stepped up, they have worked together to make things work. And I think for the same reasons that respectfully our superintendent gave to hire someone from outside, I think would be more work personally for our internal staff. This individual does not know any of our students, our opening procedures, our staff, but if you're looking for somebody to implement our code of conduct and our cell phone policy, it would be helpful to have somebody in that role who knows the student. It is my understanding that this was this was not even a conversation of how do we make it work internally. It was that we were going to bring in somebody from outside. I do also find at $775 a day, it's $23,000 investment, which I would rather see spent on district employees and people that we have. We have given stipends for almost every administrative position. Any leave we've ever had has always gone internally. We have exceptional people in the district. And I feel in order to assure that things are running smoothly for the first month, why complicate things with an outside individual? This is also somebody that the board has stated in the past was not a fit for the district. So I will be voting no. And that's why I voted. So no disrespect, but I would rather see the work stay within our district.
Yeah, I'm going to be voting no as well. I think it's something that we should be able to backfill internally for the first 30 days of the school.
I tend to agree with Lauren and Nick, but I am curious, Kristen, if you could speak to the high school principal's position on this, because they are in fact are the ones on the ground, and they're the ones, in fact, who will be implementing and enforcing a pretty new, steep policy for students who have had cell phones up to this day, and a new code of conduct. Like I said, I think Lauren and Nick make good points. I think they're well-founded. I also think we have to have a sense of what the administrators on the ground feel and what are the risks if we don't fill this appointment and you do backfill internally for an interim period of time.
So even as of today, we were hiring people. We're still short in a couple areas. It's only a couple days before school. If something was to happen, whatever that may be, this individual has 37 years of administrative experience. He's been a high school principal, 2 locations. He's been assistant superintendent, even filled in as an interim superintendent. Like I said, Patrick and the staff already do have some relationships with him. Patrick and him have had different high school relationships as they, both grown in their positions. I don't feel comfortable if something went wrong that we didn't do the best effort all the time. So when I look at administration and I know the work that they do, and sometimes, they're scrambling because a student needs them, we need administrators. Only certain people can do certain aspects of the job because of the licensure. And due to the fact that we're just hiring an assistant principal this evening and they can't start for 30 days, I don't feel comfortable opening up school. We do have one of the assistant principals here tonight, and it's also putting extra work on the staff that's currently here. So we're asking them to take on the work of that other individual, who sometimes can be daunting and sometimes can be very difficult. So
They've done that over the years.
we have many updates from the state. Mr. Packard and Mrs. Villa have spent a lot of time in regards to safety, and I always believe to be safe first. I put the children's safety first. This has nothing to do with me or my position. Clearly, it doesn't do anything to me one way or another. But every decision I make comes with the welfare of children first. So that's always going to be where I sit. More eyes in the building as children come in, and that we know them, and we know where to send them, and we know who's talking to them, and that's just my administrative responsibility after doing 24 years as a school administrator. That's my recommendation. I don't know who we would backfill it with, because we're hiring at such a late date. So that's why I'm making that recommendation.
I do agree that it's important to have people there with eyes on our kids, and nobody's questioning safety. My question is, why wouldn't we put people in there who know who the kids are? It's difficult to ascertain children, especially the first few weeks of school, without knowing who they are, let alone knowing where an emergency exit is, where the rooms are, or the bathroom, or the cafeteria. It seems to me. Anyways, I think put it to a vote. Unless somebody has a comment.
I just want to make it clear that we understand the building administration's position on this, because again, I'm not in the building every day, so I recognize there may be routines or things that we've done in the past that could very well work, but again, I'm not an educator, I'm not an administrator, I don't know what it's going to take. So can you just remind us, I recognize that the building principal and this individual have a relationship, but that doesn't matter to me. Does he feel he needs someone outside of the school in this position, and why? So could you just speak to that?
Again, there's a list of responsibilities that the assistant principals fulfill. I don't know who would do all those responsibilities unless Mrs. Watson was to cut herself in half.
I think the question was, did the building request it? Did Patrick and his staff
Mrs.
request?
Watson, is there anything you'd like me to add?
I think we're asking the superintendent if this was requested by the principal.
There's also an assistant principal here as well.
The board is not, I'm personally not requesting, Amy, that you get up and speak. I'm just simply asking if this was a request made by the building level administration that they needed help, that's all.
Mr. DiClemente did not come to me because I am the one that's required to make the recommendations to the Board of Education as I see fit. Based on the knowledge that I have from working with these individuals every day, our assistant superintendents, and I believe that when I came, we decided that we even needed a dean part-time. So I don't know how, at this juncture, we wouldn't need a full-time assistant principal, because it was recognized when I came that even the two assistant principals had a lot on their plate, and so much so that we added the addition of a dean. So that's why I'm saying this. I'm saying this based on data from when I started, that this board had decided, whoever was sitting on the board had decided at that point that we needed to make that addition. So to open up the school year without one assistant principal just doesn't feel right to me. It's not something I would ever recommend to a community.
Kristen, do you not have any other staff members that hold that licensure who could serve internally for a period of time?
We could look at the licensure. They would have to be people that are interested, but then we would be pulling also from someone else. So say we did, I'm just going to say teacher A. Now that classroom doesn't have a teacher at the beginning of the school year. So now we have to tell those parents that we're going to start the school year and that teacher isn't going to work with their children, and then we'll just say up to 30 days later, then the teacher will be put back in there. We try not to do that. We have to do it with certain staff members, obviously, if they're having a child, etc. But we try not to put our teachers in that position.
Are there any other administrators, understanding that they have full-time jobs, I recognize that, but temporarily relieving them of said duties for a period of time that can cover the AP role without impacting negatively the school committee? You understand sort of the question? So if I have duties A through Z, you absolve me of those temporarily while I'm interim acting as the AP and cover it for 30 days.
I don't know how we cover those positions, Dr. Sampino. I mean, you work directly with these people as well. The work has to get done. It'd be very, very difficult. We had an administrative meeting today, went over all the protocols for the start of the school year. We had an elementary meeting, we had a secondary meeting. People were in positions, and we had goals set for the year. So that would mean that we would have to meet as an administrative group and look at areas that, I don't know, would not be addressed. I mean, we all have full responsibilities.
Mayor, would the money for this be covered in the budget?
Karen can speak to that, but yes, because we're not paying an employee. So we're not paying benefits, which if you calculate that, family benefits are $43,000 a year, so you can break that up monthly, and we're not paying that salary. So this would be actually lower than, much lower than what we would be paying, so financially speaking. And Karen can speak to that exactly, but.
This is an 11-month position?
It's 11 months, and the starting salary for that position is $174.
That seems pretty on par with it. 770. I don't know how we calculated 775 or where that number comes from. I guess is it just what the daily rate is of an average EP?
We should be familiar with that. We've had a lot of interns from other boards. They throw a number, you pay.
The last intern that we had here was Lori Skaneka. She started at 800 and went up to 850 after she'd been here for over a year, just to give the board a former price.
So, just out of there, the 174, if you divide it by 220, the per diem rate would be $730.
775. Other questions or discussion on this? Do I have a motion to approve this? Do I have a second? Christina? Oh, Holly? All those in favor? Those opposed? It's approved. The next item that was asked to be pulled is the increased purchase order for the BI roof replacement. Do we have further discussion on that item? No discussion. Do I have a motion to approve that? Holly? Do I have a second? Matt? Those in favor of that item? Those opposed? The final item is in regards to the increase for the BI turf field. Do we have further discussion on that item? I will state for the record, as Lauren alluded to it, yes, I am involved with the Locust Valley Bayville Soccer Club. Yes, I help volunteer there and help to run that program. This program has been around for I don't know how many years in this community. This program is the primary user of our fields in the fall. Is that right, Eric? And they've used that field for many, many, many years. They pay money to be able to use that for custodians, in order to use restrooms. We figured out how to do it. Porta potty, that has been the case for a very long time. A formal request came from an organization who the Locust Valley Bayville Soccer Club pay to run our athletic program, Gold Coast Academy. One of the owners of that approached the athletic director and said, in light of the fact that we run this local soccer program, and in light of the fact that we are attempting as a community to build additional connections from the lowest levels of our youth athletic programs to have connections with this community, he said, for it to be valuable, would be great to have the littlest players' fields lines drawn for 7v7. He made that request. Our athletic director reviewed it and spoke with him, and it has proceeded. To be clear, the increase of this amount of money for this turf field is because of the increase in size of the field along with the additional concrete work. The size of the field was increased for the purposes of flag football in order to accommodate the lines and the parameters for that sport, which again is needed by our community because of the scheduling headaches that our athletic director had with the fields and available properties for practices for the middle school and high schools. As always is the case, because all requests go into Eric, so nothing is misconstrued, Eric, our school programs get precedent on field availability. Is that correct? So the answer, because he's not on the mic, is yes, always. So our local baseball team, if they want to use our brand new turf field and use those new dugouts, they will need to request that. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the lines that are being put on that turf field, we needed to have those put on so those baseball diamonds can continue. Is that correct? Okay. So I just want to make sure that's clear to everybody. I do not reject or resist having our council weigh in on whether or not it's appropriate that I'm assimilated with that organization as well as sitting in this chair. I have no problem having that discussion, and we can have that discussion with council. That said, do I have a motion for the BI field to continue? Matt and Holly. All those in favor? Opposed? Passes.
And I'm just going to comment that my concern was was not the usage of our fields. Our fields have always been and will continue to be open for students to participate in all of the outside organizations, including the soccer club. My concern was that there have been concerns brought against me for my involvement with outside organizations in my volunteer capacity while acting as the board president. And so I was concerned that our board president, acting as the president and the facilities director, and also a board member of an outside organization, is asking for an increase in expenditures that a taxpayer paid. That was my concern and why I brought it up, because when you look at the list, one of the additions, one of the change orders was 77 lines. I am extremely happy to have all of our youth programs in the community on our fields. That was one of the reasons why we even started this project, and it was actually my suggestion to bring in the outside organizations so that we had their input. But we had a specific change order associated with that request from that organization to be paid for by the taxpayers. And in the best interest of our board, I brought that up and asked council. That was the question.
Any additional comments? We'll move into public comment. The first name, Lisa McLaughlin. Lisa McLaughlin, I'm going to share what you asked to have provided this board.
I'm sorry,
I'm going to share with the board.
my questions? Oh, thank you very much, George. Yeah, I'm gonna have to cut this short. I thought there was going to be a lot of comment in the beginning.
We'll give you 4 minutes.
Yeah. First, I would like to thank Dr. Turnow for her recent communications with me. Very timely, cordial, and unfortunately, I asked a lot of the wrong questions. And I'd also like to thank Lauren for the August 11th pulling of those cost overruns from the consent agenda, which sent me down a rabbit hole, the capital fund balances, and capital reserves, and all sorts of stuff I've come up with. I did my homework. My questions are, what accounts are current contractors being paid from? When were the turf and roof projects approved by the board and voters? And was a performance bond required? What was the amount? When were the bid notices published? In what newspapers and where were they posted? How many bids were received and who were the contracts awarded to? Is this the same contractor who installed the turf tennis courts and LVI AMP playground turf? Did the district engineers vet these contractors? When and where is the report? Who conducted the secret for the turf and roof? When? I'm just going to add here that for 5 years I was an appointed member of the planning board of the Incorporated Village of Bayville, so I do have some familiarity with what government entities go through in projects. Who ordered the start date for the BI turf project? When will it be safe for BI children to use the playground and field? And who should be held accountable for this alleged waste of fraud and abuse? I did not see a Prop 2 for the turf field and the roof. The Prop 2 this year was for the cafeteria and the library. And I have heard that the cafeteria is not being done. So where did this district get the authority to go ahead with this field project? Thank you. I have 41 seconds. I don't know if you want to respond to any of those questions. I'd appreciate it. They weren't addressed during the presentation. I went through everything. The only thing I could find was a little sketch like that from June from the Facilities Committee. I saw the one-line capital transfer to the capital fund, not the reserve. I was told that the money from the capital fund does not get transferred into the reserve. I don't know, that sounds strange. I looked at an audit from last year. It listed 6 projects that were in the capital fund and then also in the capital reserve. So that was $7.3 million, no, I'm sorry, $3.7 million in '24, twice. Are we double dipping on all these projects? What's going on? And why was there never consideration of the community? You know, Bayville has drainage problems. You said yourself that field flooded. Where's the secret? Where's the engineer's report? What kind of drainage is now there underneath this turf? Because Sunday there was an article in Newsday. I don't know if you all saw it about the turf.
Thank you.
Okay, did you see it?
Your time is up. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you don't want to talk about that.
No, we want to hear this stuff. We actually want to hear this. This is good stuff. And you had us waiting for 45 minutes.
Right.
So all due respect, Mr. George, let the woman
So-
speak.
Conceding my time, please.
Thank you.
Mine too. She's covering everything.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it. They're ceding their time, George.
I'll let you go, Ms. McCall.
Okay, so, the article, which was only in the print version of Newsday this past Sunday, the hot issues around fake grass can become extremely hot, hotter than regular grass. Doesn't have the best drainage. This is a quote from the article this past Sunday. So I want to know, who came, you say you've talked about it for years. I'm not privy to executive sessions. I don't know what you talk about in executive session, but I went through 3 years worth of documents on your very difficult to navigate website, and I have pulled budgets and minutes and looked for anything possible mentioning the roof and the turf. And all I came up with was a transfer to the capital fund. It was never put in a prop to the voters. Unless you can prove otherwise, and in 2023 and 2024, there were audits of the facilities projects, scheduled projects. There is no audit listed for 2025. Maybe it was conducted and wasn't uploaded. That's very possible. Susan Hammerschmidt's shoes are hard to fill. So I would like some answers. Was this just, you know, hey, let's not do the cafeteria and let's do the field? Where did this come from? It is literally in my backyard. And I resent the fact that these children are not going to be allowed to go outside the last few weeks of summer. I think that is just unconscionable on your part, that this planning was so horrendous. So that's basically what I have to say. I think this project is illegal. I think it's a misappropriation of funds. And I think some people need to resign over it. I really do. I just think this was so poorly handled. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry if I mispronounce the name. Barbara Vizone? Vivona, sorry.
I conceded my time, please.
Okay, thank you. John Del Taro?
Hi, John. Good to see you.
John Del Taro, 6 Times Court, Haven, New York. I'd like to talk about appointed somebody and you gave their initials. We don't know their name, they're gonna be working here, September 8th, or whatever they can open. E, or something B, why was only his initials here? And do we have a name? I'm asking for a reason.
We do have a name, John. The decision on the hire was decided this evening, so we used initials so that other
Why wouldn't the public know who the hire?
so the other candidates can be informed first that they were not selected. We're attempting, John, to avoid as much as possible public communication before those individuals have a private conversation.
So we will find this out tomorrow? Within a couple of days, 2 days, by Monday?
Yes.
Can I clarify? Once the candidates have all been notified, when I add this resolution into the board docs and record the motions, the person's name will be listed there publicly.
I won't be looking at board docs, but that'll be by Monday. I'll make a phone call.
It'll be online. If it's tomorrow, if I'm directed tomorrow, it'll be on tomorrow. If I'm directed tonight, it'll be on tonight.
Okay. That'd be an interesting thing to look at. The personal action report. Which it looked like that was decided before a vote was even taken. So, to go back over the years when I was on the board, we've had other assistant principals, whoever pitched in and did the job for the 30 days. And they would do that unbeknownst, they would just do it without spending $23,000. Forget about the $44,000 in insurance. The guy's a vetted principal. He's got coverage already, so that doesn't mean anything. So I think your assistant principals wouldn't have a problem doing this. And the next question, why does it have to be 30 days? If you have we gone over everyone internally? Have you selected somebody already for this position?
It was approved tonight.
What?
You approved somebody tonight.
But we don't know the name.
Yes. William Galati.
William Galati.
Is not the permanent solution, he's the interim acting.
He's the interim acting, and he doesn't work here now, does he?
No.
He's an outside person. Did we have anyone within the district that is qualified to do this job, apply for the job?
For the interim acting, John, or are you acting?
The interim acting, no, the regular job. The interim acting job that we need to, he's an interim acting, and we have to get him approved within 30 days, correct? Is that what you're saying?
No. So it's clear to the community.
So he's going to be here the first day of school. So my second question was, we had anyone in the district apply for the full-time job?
Just to make sure it's clear. They went through, the administration went through an interview process. We, the board, participated at the end with finalists. We made a determination of appointing someone this evening. That person needs to be able to provide their current district with notification.
Okay.
And the industry practice, as far as I understand it from Kristen and the rest of the administration, is that takes 30 days.
Okay.
Therefore, our superintendent recommended that they did not have the staffing capabilities within the organization to cover upwards of 30 days. In reality, if the individual is able to leave earlier, he would leave earlier and the transition would happen faster. Therefore, we had a separate item that we pulled this evening to approve an interim acting individual to cover up to, and as I said, I believe it says either a maximum or not to exceed of 30 days.
That didn't answer my question.
So, no, now what is I want to make sure that was what I thought your question was, John. I'm giving you a little more time here, so what's your question?
My question, I'm sorry. I usually I'm on that side. Did we have anyone that was qualified from the district apply for the job?
Yes.
The last thing about facilities, in the years that I was involved in, 6 years I was involved in facilities committee, we had flow charts for every job that was state for approval. We had jobs where monthly we had jobs, but the cost was there. What's our budget? What's our, what have we spent so far? How much more will we have left? It was a mistake. All those things were done. And my suggestion, and it's only a suggestion, you have a facilities guy here. He reports to George, the head of facilities. Why doesn't he stay on the dais and report during the budget process, during times like this? He knows all the answers. He's not here every meeting. That's my recommendation, only my recommendation. You won't have these problems that you had. And things out there saying 400,000. I was under the impression it was going to be a slate roof. Now it's a composite roof. Kristen said to me in the meeting, Kristen said to the meeting last week that a composite roof lasts longer than a slate roof. Eric would never say that. So she was misunderstood because she didn't have her facts right. I suggest DPE in there when you're spending the money you're spending. Okay? One more question. I have many more. But you're going to go to the board at bank next year to do the cafeteria, the parking lot, and the library. You have no chance. Zero chance to get through. Forget about how much more money it's going to cost us. You have zero chance of getting those jobs completed. And I was here last year. Oh, we'll use them to move over from the library for waiting for materials, to go over to the cafeteria to fix the cafeteria, and we'll get this job done. The number's going to go up astronomically, and you'll never get the work done. So you better have a different game plan on this. I'm done. Thank you for your time, and
Thank you.
have a nice night.
Next, Mike, I believe it's Izzo.
I can see my time, but let's speak loud.
Sure, go ahead.
I speak loud enough. Can everybody hear me?
Sorry, we do ask you.
Everyone should be able to hear me. It's fine. All right. First of all, Eric is the facility manager, right? Was he the only one that was putting out bids for the roof and the turf, if there were bids for that? Were there bids for that? I didn't answer that. I heard somebody mention that there were no bids for that. There's only one company that was chosen, bidded. I don't know. What's the facts on that? I know you touched on it. I know Lisa touched on that.
I asked, I didn't get an answer.
If you get an answer to this question.
Eric, you want to respond to that?
So we got two quotes for the roof, and Milcon was the cheapest. They're both up piggyback bids. For the turf, we used the piggyback bid head data, which the district pays for. It's a cooperative type bid. We've used it for many years in the district, and we do a lot of goods and services through them. I asked Land Tech in the past, I think a little bit more than a year ago, for a price for the field. They wouldn't give me a written one. They verbally said 2.3 to 2.5. And then the only other vendor for the turf that we know of, and we ran through the architect for this, is Laser Industries, who we just recently used for another project, and were very happy with the outcome of their work, so we chose not to go with it.
All right, that could have been answered earlier. Thank you guys for at least covered everything. Appreciate you.
Thank you. And Lisa Malilo? Call please.
Samillo. I'm a lifelong Naval resident, I'm also a staff member at FBI. I just had concerns about the field. I felt like I didn't know about it, we were working at the building and living in the community, felt like it really abruptly started. I felt like the community should get involved in this more. I know you said the sports groups were involved in having input, but a presentation like this would be earlier on would be helpful. Were there any environmental studies done or any ways to keep drainage other than getting turf? You know, will this been done, environmental studies or?
Should we support secret?
Eric, you want to answer the safety question?
The engineer was involved for the, he did drainage calculations, he designed the drainage for the area. There was no specific environmental work done.
And we've repeatedly tried to resod it, to try to fix the drain. That's been an ongoing, constant, so.
Will the engineer support the upload to the website?
The drainage calculations?
Yeah.
Wait, that's a few days, it's gone.
Okay.
And was the village involved in the decision too, the village of Dayton?
I want to be clear for everybody, this went out to the community in multiple presentations in the spring, during budget presentations, and was included in the list of projects that we outlined that would be used from our transfer to capital. Am I correct with that, Karen?
So I did notice on where it says financial information here, I think it was slide before, is that how it was presented? So it's just like, sure, well, you can say it right. Yeah. Was it the same thing? The presentation and that. And the social media it was presented on, what was that like?
It was, I wish Tom was here tonight.
Yeah,
But it was in the, because Karen and I looked, when we got the phone calls, we looked, we saw it in the March, and in the April Board of Education presentations, I even mentioned in one of my superintendent's reports, it was like, one of them was like slide 15, the other one was slide 25. I don't remember which one, it was, but they were both in, one was in March, one was in April, those board meetings.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to convene an executive session in order to discuss personnel matters related to an individual? Sure. Who is that? If you would, sir, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Joe Fink, 3 Laurel Place, Dirt Road. First of all, I want to thank Nicholas Delfaro and Lauren for speaking up for folks like us, put 3 kids through this district. I want to thank Amy. No, I didn't plan on coming here tonight. I got dragged in here by my neighbor. Here I am. I don't like the cost overruns. I do a lot of projects. I don't like, when I do a project, I build it in. What happens if this happens? What happens if that happens? What's the consequences? These seem like add-ons. I don't like that process. It didn't seem right to me. That's my smell test. I also don't like, I'm sure, I live right on Laurel Road, which is right down by the school. And I'm sure you guys talk about climate change in your science classes. I guarantee you. And yet now I look and this grass is being pulled off, which is natural, and we're putting plastic there. And what's the carbon footprint? I'm sure we're teaching about in our science classes. What's the carbon footprint of this plastic rug it's flat, half acre, whatever that is, I don't know the square footage on this field. So are we contradicting ourselves? I mean, one instance, we said in climate change, called the footprint, plastics, we should reduce the use, we should reduce the use of energy. And on the other thing, oh, we're just gonna pay for nature with plastic. It's a little hypocritical, a little contradictory. Your quality's been my job. I'll be honest with you. That's all I got to say. Thank you for speaking up for us. I don't know you. Thank you, Nick. And again, free tissue in this district. You're all paying your own way, so you guys are doing a pretty good job in many ways. God bless you, really wants to pay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. May I have a motion to adjourn into executive session in order to discuss the personnel matters related to specific individual employees? Do I have a motion? Matt, do I have a second? Lindsay, excuse me, Christina, all those in favor? Get home safe, everybody. Apologies again for starting late.